Hello everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Ajoe21love, here with another episode of Sports Overview Topics. Bunch to go over today. Also, thank you for those who tuned in to my AEW Revolution review yesterday on the podcast. So if you didn't check that out, that's on the channel and my pro wrestling reviews list, as well as, of course, my other reviews as far as AEW Dynamite, as well as sports overview topics. Find out. But today, episode number 38, going over UFC 259, which happened on Saturday night. Had some good fights there. Also be going over Dak Prescott's extension and why I believe he was overpaid and why I'm disappointed in both sides. Also talk about Blake Griffin to Nets and much more. So again, thank you for joining me. And first, I want to go over UFC 259 because for all you MMA fans, you know that it was an exciting card. 3 title fights. We had the, of course, return of Dominick Cruz weighing out the prelims, and we also had an interesting fight as far as the critics and people on social media are concerned. Thiago Santos and Alexander Rikic, but first, go over the Dominick Cruz fight versus Casey Kenny that rounded out the prelims. I mean, Dominick Cruz, we haven't seen him since his title losing defeat to Henry Cejudo. But, I mean, as we know, since Dominick Cruz first got injured, really, when he was supposed to fight Barao, Cruz has always been, layoffs in between fights, along with the commentating and, that stuff. But he looked good in this fight. I mean, obviously, coming off another layoff against a kind of rising competitor, Casey Kenny. I mean, Casey Kenny is not really a household name. He's not like in top 10, but he's a respectable fighter. And Dominick Cruz, he looked good, as well as Casey Kenny. He did well, but ultimately the decision went to Dominick Cruz, and the judging throughout the night was very silly, I would say. But nice win for Dominick Cruz, and it's good to see him back, technically. And then we go to the main card. We had, like I said, Alexander Rikic versus Thiago Santos. 2 top 10 contenders in the light heavyweight division. Both coming on strong. How would this fight go down? If you're a fan on social media, because I read everything, I saw the highlights of the fight. I mean, it definitely wasn't the most entertaining fight. I think we can all agree. But it was very kind of technical sort of fight, as in both landed with kicks, you know, leg kicks for the story, it seemed for Rickage. Santos, he landed the bigger strikes, but ultimately they gave the win to Rickage, and I don't think it was enough to warrant a title shot, especially considering Glover Teixeira is next in line for the main event. So there was that. Then we get to the first three top fights. We had Aljamain Sterling vs Petr Yan, a highly anticipated fight, probably the most anticipated fight on the card. But Yan coming in, really ever since he beat Uriah Faber, he's been really on the map. And, being Aldo to win the title, now facing Sterling, and Yan looked good. He looked really on point, and he knocked down Sterling. Sterling is tough. He's very tough. And the ending of the fight, the reality is everybody's complaining about one side or another. That's just the way it is. Someone's going to complain about something. And Petr Yan hit a illegal knee on Sterling when one knee and one foot and the other foot was down clearly. I don't know what Yan was thinking. There was chatter before the fight, and I don't get it. Why, you could say it was a mistake, but, you're a veteran, you're a competitor. You should know when and when not it's legal. But, so with that, Sterling couldn't continue, and for the first time, I believe, at least I've seen, someone win a UFC title by disqualification. Now, look, everyone's going to complain about something, whether or another. Sterling said after the fight that it's not the way he wanted to win it, and he would like a rematch, I assume. But for the critics on social media to say that, the rules are the rules, and if he's the champion, he's the champion. And for people to clown him for celebrating with his family or whatever is silly. I mean, he's the champion. Yes, it wasn't the right way, but he's the champion. He should at least be able to celebrate that with his family or whoever. And yes, Jan didn't really lose it, but rules are the rules. And I know people are going to point to the John Jones Anthony Smith title fight, but Anthony Smith, he continued throughout the rest of that fight, and Sterling, it was at the end of the fourth, and it was a hard knee. And if you can't continue, you can't continue. It's just silly how some critics fire back at people, but yeah, I imagine there's going to be a rematch in the future. And then I want to go over the co-main event, but I'll go over the main event. Jan Blachowicz defending against Israel Adesanya. Now, Blachowicz, Mr. Polish Power, we know that he has power to get it done. He didn't start off his UFC career on a good note, but throughout the last couple years, he has really honed in on a hot streak. His last two fights, finishing Corey Anderson, finishing Dominick to win the title, and now tonight, Adesanya, we know his record has not been touched prior to this fight, 20-0. He stopped Whitaker, he got past Romero, and he finished Paulo Costa. And one of the main questions I had going in this fight was how would Adesanya's power generate up a weight class? And against Jan or Blachowicz, so I don't get people confused. Pierre Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz, he really implemented his game plan. He pressured Adesanya. Now, Adesanya made it difficult for Jan, but Blachowicz implemented his game plan, applied pressure, landing good shots, applied some takedowns. The bigger fighter using their weight to control the fight, and that's what Blachowicz did. And Adesanya, he hung in there, but ultimately Blachowicz just overworked him and won the fight. Now, after fight, because I assume it's going to be Blachowicz versus Glover in the future. I mean, that's the fight to make. Glover's on a hot streak. But, Jan says put respect on his name, and, some people on social media will say, put some respect on his name. Well, not a lot of people I've seen on social media really have given him respect. And I know I have been one to respect Jan going in this fight. I just picked Adesanya because I thought his style would work against Jan, but oh well. But hats off to Blachowicz. Adesanya, okay, his first loss was him going up a weight class against a bigger guy. Oh well. But he's still unblemished at 185. I mean, it'll be interesting because Whitaker and Paul Costa is coming up next month, so that should be an interesting fight. Perhaps determining excuse me, Adesanya's next opponent, but overall, interesting fight and interesting night of fights. Now I will get into my thoughts on the Dak Prescott extension. So, 4 years, $160 million. $40 million per year for Dak Prescott. Now, if you know me and you watch the podcast, you'll know that I predicted that Dak and the Cowboys wouldn't work out, that Dak wouldn't resign. I just thought that Dak has overpriced himself and out of Dallas. And look, I'm not saying that he didn't deserve a contract. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Dak was overpaid. And anybody looking at this contract compared to others can tell that he was overpaid. Clearly overpaid. I mean, getting paid more than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has a Super Bowl trophy and almost won 2. Or almost won another. Russell, without Seattle, they're a sub 500 team. Whereas, okay, yes, they went 5-7 without Dak last year. Okay, well, still, you got Zeke, you got the members on the O-line that were hindered with injuries. You got talent in the front 7. I mean, and here's the other thing. Because Dak was drafted in 2016. 2 other QBs were taken in the 2016 draft that are currently in the NFL. Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been to a Super Bowl and played really good pro level football when he's on his right point. Carson Wentz had an MVP-like year in 2017 and has a Super Bowl ring. Dak has won one playoff game. One. Jared Goff, Carson Wentz. Both have been to a Super Bowl. Dak only has one playoff win, and he's getting paid more than them, more than Russell Wilson, more than Matt Ryan, more than Ryan Tannehill. I mean, Stafford, the list goes on. I mean, just the thing, if the Cowboys were willing to pay Dak this much, then why didn't you try to make a trade for Deshaun Watson? That's my thinking. Because the Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott contracts are fairly similar. Just a few million in between yearly. And Deshaun Watson is better than Dak. You can't convince me that Dak... I mean, let's look at Dak and the Cowboys' records since, and what he's done since being drafted. You know, in 2016, okay, they had that great year regular season wise, 13-3 behind a really good O-line. Zeke was on fire in his rookie year. Dez was still Dez. And that defense had playmakers. Now, okay, they lost by a field goal to Aaron Rodgers and were 1-0 in the playoffs. Okay. In 2017, Zeke missed 6 games and they were 9-7. You know, not bad, but you figure Dak would have been able to do more to shoulder the team and give them that little oomph to make the playoffs. No. 2018, okay, they were 4-5. The Washington were in position to win the division before Alex Smith and the injuries just bombarded that team. But they went 6-1 the rest of the way, won the division, and beat the Seahawks in the playoffs, wildcard round, and lost the Rams the following week. Okay. 2019. I mean, it was just hilarious. They go 3-0 and everybody's all happy about them when they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Giants, and they beat Washington. And Dak's an MVP candidate. Well, then they fall 5-8 and miss out on the playoffs. Now, last year. Now, credit, Dak got injured. but they were 1-3 before the Giants game. 1-3. And if the Falcons just find it in their grasp to recover the onside kick, they're 0-4 with Dak before the Giants game. And I mean, it was a close game with the Giants, but that does not sound like a $40 million per year guy in the NFL. You know, as much as I think that the media over expresses about him, Mahomes, all he has done is win in the NFL, and that is a contract he's worth. And he was drafted a year. Funny thing, he was drafted a year after Dak, and he played only one game his rookie year. And he already has a Super Bowl trophy, unlike Dak. Deshaun Watson was drafted a year after Dak, and he has put up better numbers against winning teams, I would say, than Dak. I'm disappointed for both sides. Now, I get it. In this sport, you're trying to get paid. And, I mean, a player's job, A, try to get paid, B, win a championship. And he got paid, but he couldn't have taken a little bit less to try to help out the team. I mean, really? He couldn't have taken less, a little less? That's just mind-boggling to me. Also, the Cowboys, they basically panicked. And that's all I'll say on the matter. Next, we go to news on the NBA. So, Blake Griffin, he has declined in the last few years. Now, the Pistons have been one of the, if not the worst team in the NBA this season. And so Blake Griffin gets a total uplift, going from arguably the worst team in the conference to arguably the best team in the conference, and the Brooklyn Nets. Now, he joins Kyrie, KD, Harden, DeAndre Jordan. I mean, he is going to be a added piece, definitely, to that team. And ultimately, I don't see a team that they are going to the NBA Finals. I think so. I mean, there's only two other teams in the East that I think can really give them a run, and that's the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers. My Celtics, I worry about. The Knicks are a fun story, but I don't think they're ready yet. I mean, I'm still not sure about the Hornets or the Bulls or the Toronto Raptors. I think it's very likely that the Nets at least go to the finals. Now, that was me on the East. Now, I also want to talk about the West, because with the Anthony Davis injury to the Lakers, there's really two teams now at the top that are really intriguing. The Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz are arguably the most loaded lineup currently in the NBA. I mean, they got Bogdanovich, they got Mike Conley, they got Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson. The list just rolls on. They just have been getting it done. I don't know what to say. They have the best record in the West, and well deserved. But the other team, the Phoenix Suns, have just impressed the ever-living crap out of the NBA, I would say, and me. Chris Paul, what he has brought to the Phoenix Suns cannot be understated or overstated. He, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, they have all brought a real character to Phoenix, which I haven't seen in a long time. They have just been exciting. They have really brought it. And, you knew that last year in the bubble, when they were the only team that went undefeated, that this was a team for the future. Well, getting Chris Paul has really elevated them, and they are a team, they are a force to be reckoned with. And they're two solid teams. So I pose the question, who's better right now? The Phoenix Suns or the Utah Jazz? Currently I go with the Jazz, but the Suns have just been really good, really good. And I mean, we still have to see what happens with Anthony Davis. And the Clippers are strange, but I wouldn't be surprised if these are two teams we see the Western Conference Finals when it's all said and done. Excuse me. So, now, excuse me. So, today is the deadline for a franchise tag in the NFL for teams to tag their players, and I'll just roll off a few because I could be here all day and I've already been here for a little bit, so I'm just going to roll off a few tagged players. So, Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Leonard Williams again, Brandon Sheriff, and that's about it so far. Also, the Raiders, they traded Trent Brown to the Patriots. So, a lot of interesting moving parts surrounding the NFL today. Now, next week is the start of the new league year, March 17th. So, it's going to be really interesting to see what escalates between now and then. Now, with the Dak contract, I'll probably have to make it by next mock draft, so I'll probably do that next week or in 2 weeks, but I'll definitely have another one soon coming out. But that's all the time for today, guys. Thank you all for joining me. I enjoyed this episode. If you're new, like and subscribe, click on that bell. Thank you all. See you Thursday. AEW Dynamite review. Thank you. Peace.